ma'am, and then the lady.
Mina Ree from Global TV. This is for Mr. De Niro and Mr. Norton. I know both of you have been in Toronto before. Just wondering if you could talk about your experience in terms of the evolution of TIFF. You know, Mr. De Niro, I recall like cameraman telling me he recalls the very first picture he took of you and how pivotal it was in his career. So when you look at Toronto and your arrival here in TIFF, how much has it changed over the years, and how does it compare to the other festivals?
I mean, I was the last time I was here. I don't remember. I think it was maybe I can't remember. I know I was here for Bronx Tale, but it's a big festival and a very good one, obviously. So I mean, I can't. It's spread out in such a way that I can't say. And I haven't been. I'm only here for the day. So, but it's a great festival.
What makes it great, though? How does it compare to the others?
It's just, you know, you hear about it everywhere. Everybody, it's one of the most important in the world, and so that's it, you know.
In terms of the buzz it creates, or the number of moviegoers it generates,
right?
I don't know. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. I mean,
now can we move on the mic to someone else? Thanks. The lady over there.
Мила Канев. Милочка, я твоя тезка. Приветствую тебя в Торонто. That's the only Russian words. That's it.
Thank you.
That's it. Just a question from Mila. Oh my God. First of all, I wanted to know, how was it to work with the icon of Hollywood like Robert De Niro? I'm just wondering, how did you feel? How was the relationship? How was on a set? How much fun did you have?
I think he was a little intimidated by me.
Yeah.
Oh, good, because that's what I wanted to know, whether you were intimidated by him or Resident Evil is really evil. And another question, kind of together. You just did a movie in Moscow, I know that. And how is it different to shoot the movie in the U.S. and in Moscow?
Well, the first question, you know, Robert asked me to call him Bob, which I thought was awesome. I was like, yes, I'm one of the few people that get to call Mr. De Niro Bob. So I feel super cool. All right. But we had a great time. I have one little story in particular that I just love, and it was a scene that we did with Francis, and it was one of the few scenes that I had the honor to do with Francis as well, over the phone. I was back in LA already, and they called me and said, you know, Bob wants to do his close-up. He wants to talk to you on the phone to do it. So they called my house. I have a baby screaming. You know, my mom is, you know, speaking Russian. She talks really loud. I'm trying to find a place to hide. I go into the bathroom. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. John's like, all right, okay, get ready. Okay, set. Okay, we're going to call you back. Calls me back. I talk to Frances on the phone. She gives the phone to Bob, and I start the whole seduction scene. He says, Miss Creason, this is totally inappropriate. Goodbye. Hangs up on me. I said, what happened? John calls me back. He says, Mila, what's going on? I said, I don't know. Bob hung up on me. She says, okay, let's do it again. He calls me back. I do the same thing. Hangs up on me again. Well, a couple of more hang-ups later, I said, all right, John, let me try something else, because it's not working. Obviously, he doesn't buy it. And it made me really shift with how I was going to convince him to stay on the phone. And it was great as an actress for me to know that he needed to find something that was organic and real in him that was going to make him stay there. And I went from trying to seduce him to just begging him to not hang up on me. And something about that, I guess, worked, because you didn't. And we got the scene. So it was such an amazing experience to work in a way that is so organic and so natural. And it really doesn't matter what the script says when someone is trying to find something real. You know, you got to help them do it. And you know, I could tell that we weren't making any headway until I was going to change the way I was going about doing the scene, even though the camera wasn't on me at all. You know, so it was a great learning experience for me as an actor.
The most amazing thing about that story is that it's so hard to get Bob off the phone.
No, realize I'm on the phone at sometimes, but I don't like to talk a lot. Actually, there's brief conversations.
Lots of short ones.
Sure.
Okay.
Do you want to say something about the film you did in Russia?
The Russian movie. It was wonderful. I had such an incredible experience shooting in Moscow, and one of the best experiences of my life. It was such an honor and a privilege to come back and do a film in my first language, in my country of birth. It was, I'm very, very proud. It was a lot to do in 10 days with jet lag, but I got through it, and what an incredible experience to work with Konstantin Hrbensky, one of the best actors in the country, and Yvonne Ergen, one of the most incredible young comedians. So I had an amazing time.
So there's no difference really between...
No, not at all. I mean, everybody's very professional. I mean, it's very much what I'm used to.
Sir?
Yeah, I have another question for Mr. De Niro. Can I call you Bob?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do you see the intimidation? Do you realize, how intimidated actors and people are when they meet you?
No, that, I don't know. Look, when you're with people and you're working with them, that goes away pretty fast. You've got to work together. So I'd say that really, it goes away. It has to, And if anything, my job is to make sure that to help people if they are really nervous, or that we have to get past that and do what's needed for the scene or whatever, or maybe use it for the scene if it's that, whatever. But that's. Huh?
Did it ever happen to you?
When he intimidated himself?
Yeah, that I've done something. Yeah. Certain actors, when I was younger, I'd meet. I was impressed with. I remember I worked with Robert Mitchum, but when I met Brando, even before I worked with him, and Ed and I worked with him, I knew him before that, and he was so smart and clever that it was just a joy to talk to him, and he liked to talk a lot too. But he was great. But I wasn't intimidated. I was impressed that he was great. We all, I loved him. He was great.
Sir?
Hi, Daryl Hicks, Astral Radio. My question's for Robert De Niro. You've done, obviously, a lot of intense drama, but you've also had great success doing comedy, hilarious comedy. How do you prepare differently, and do you prefer one genre over the other?
Well, comedy, certain types of comedy are, they're easier in some ways because you're not worried about certain things. In my experience, you just try them. You try things and say, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll cut it out. Or if you go a little too far, you'll go over the top. This movie, in its own way, was more difficult in some ways because it looks easy to do on the page, but there are subtleties and rhythms that you have to get into. The scenes between Ed and myself and Mila and myself, and we all had this. To me, it was very, very easy to see, as I say. But once you had to actually do the scene, so each time we did the scene over and over again, it was like a rehearsal for me, and I think for all of us it is. Like in movies, usually you don't do that much rehearsal, so the thing would get more in shape and more in focus and more the way John would want it, and how we would feel better about it. I think, at least in my case, I don't know if that's answering the question, but what was the other part of the question?
Which one do you prefer? Drama?
Well, they're both, and there's also other things that have irony in them. I like things that are, like the Italians do that very well. They're very funny at the same time they're drama, though that kind of comedy to me is probably the most interesting. The outright comedy is another type of thing which I enjoy doing. And listen, I just do it. If it works, it works. Hopefully it does. So, it's fun for me.